Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from honestreporting.com dated November 8th. It's called Broken Borders. AP and Reuters pictures of Hamas atrocities raise ethical questions. And I saw this being reported on Twitter or X, whatever the hell you want to call it these days, that kind of showed that there were already people reporters that were embedded, I guess, if you will, with the Hamas folks out there that were committing war crimes. So it was kind of like, how did you get that information? Like, were you a part of this? So let's just dive right in here. It says on October 7th, Hamas terrorists were not the only ones who documented the war crimes they had committed during their deadly rampage across southern Israel. Some of the atrocities were captured by Gaza based photojournalists working for the Associated Press and Reuters news agencies, whose early morning presence at the breach border area raises serious ethical questions. Why were they there? How did they know about that? Like, did they know about this? It says, what were they doing there so early on? What would ordinarily have been a quiet Saturday morning? Was it coordinated with Hamas? Probably was, in fact. These folks do work for them, and I mean, the AP, if anybody remembers out there, they had an office in the West, or not the West Bank, I'm sorry, in Gaza, where Hamas was based out of. So to say there's a conflict of interest would probably be an understatement. So let's go back to the article. It says, did the respectable wire services which publish their photos approve of their presence inside enemy territory together with the terrorist infiltrators? Did the photojournalists who freelance for other media like CNN and the New York Times notify these outlets? Judging from the pictures of lynching, kidnapping, and storming of an Israeli kibbutz, it seems like the border has been breached not only physically but also journalistically. And I mean, journalists these days have basically no set of ethics anyway, so yeah, I'm not surprised about that. It might be the least surprising thing that we're going to go through. So, this is AP photojournalists or infiltrators. Four names appear on the AP's photo credits from the Israel-Gaza border area on October 7th: Hassan Islaya, Youssef Massoud, Ali Mahmoud, and Hatim Ali. Islaya, a freelancer who also works for CNN, I don't think so anymore. I think since then they've put out a statement saying that he does not work for them anymore. So he crossed into Israel, took photos of a burning Israeli tank, which is presumably this picture that is right in front of right in front of you right now, and then captured infiltrators entering Kibbutz Kfar Aza. We're going to skip down and past the pictures. This honest reporting has obtained screenshots of Islaya's now removed tweets on X, in which he documented himself standing in front of the Israeli tank. He did not wear a press vest or a helmet, and the Arabic caption of his tweet read, "Live from inside the Gaza Strip settlements." All right. It says update shortly after the publication of this article, we were alerted to footage of Hassan Islaya next to the Israeli tank. In addition, a photo has surfaced showing Islaya with Hamas leader and mastermind of the October 7th massacre, Yahya Sinwar, which is this guy that is doing the kissing right here, and this is the reporter on the right. So let's keep going. We're going to skip past the footage. It says in the above video, Islaya says in Arabic, everyone who were inside this tank were kidnapped. Everyone who were inside the tank were kidnapped a short while ago by Al Qassam brigades, that's Hamas's armed wing, as we have seen with our own eyes. Excuse me. There's more photos he took in Kfar Aza show Hamas terrorists trying to breach the kibbutz's fence and a burning house inside the community. Says they're shooting at our house, whereas the army and its eyewitnesses recount horrors following Gazan infiltration in southern Israel, with another picture, and then shows a house on fire. Says Massoud, who also works for the New York Times, was there as well, just in time to set foot in Israeli territory and take more tank pictures. Says Ali Mahmoud and Hatem Ali were positioned to get pictures of the horrific abductions of Israelis into Gaza. Yeah, how was that? Did they have pre-knowledge of this happening? And if they did, they're a part of this. Like, they're not journalists, they are active combatants. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know what the exact rules are, but I would certainly think they are active combatants and are a part of Hamas. This Mahmoud captured the pickup truck carrying the body of German Israeli Shani Luke, and that's her right here. Those are horrible pictures to look at if you see them or if you have. And Ali got several shots of the abductees being kidnapped into the strip. And this is presumably someone right here. Let's see what it says. Yeah, that's him. And then right here, says interestingly, the names of the photographers, which appear on other sources, have been removed from some of the photos on AP's database. Gee, I mean, the AP is trying to cover their own asses. I wonder why. Does perhaps someone at the agency realize it posed serious questions regarding their journalistic ethics? And the AP's gone out the window a long time ago. Like they don't have journalistic ethics anymore. Like they keep putting out rules about like it would be like you should be doing this, and everybody should tell them shove off. You guys just don't have the high ground anymore. Says Reuters lynching as image of the day. It says Reuters has published pictures from two photojournalists who also happened to be at the border just in time for Hamas's infiltration. Mohammed Fake Abu Mustafa and Yasser Kudeh. And I'm probably butchering those names. I don't like butchering names, regardless if I agree with the people or not, so I apologize. Says they both took pictures of a burning Israeli tank on the Israeli side of the border, but Abu Mustafa went further. He took photos of a lynch mob brutalizing the body of an Israeli soldier who was dragged out of the tank. And this must be the face that's covered up here. You can see it's pixelated, so this is probably the soldier right here. It says Reuters was kind enough to add a graphic warning to the photo caption. Thanks, Reuters. But it didn't prevent editors from shamelessly labeling it as one of the images of the day in the editorial database. Like, is this kind of like when Time had Hitler as the person of the year? It's one of those things where it's just like, it's not necessarily like we're praising that person, but it's something, it's a person that's like changed the world, whether it's good or bad. Like, this is kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, it's not like we're praising the image, but it's just a striking image sort of thing. Like, is that what we're doing here? It says, let's be clear. News agencies may claim that these people were just doing their job. Documenting war crimes, unfortunately, may be a part of it, but it's not that simple. It is now obvious that Hamas had planned its October 7th attack on Israel for a very long time. Its scale, its brutal aims, and its massive documentation have been prepared for months, if not years. Everything was taken into account the deployments, the timing, as well as the use of body cams and mobile phone videos for sharing the atrocities. Yeah, and I love how like they filmed themselves doing these things, and there's actually people out there that are saying, "Oh yeah, this didn't happen. It's all fake." And it's like, are you, are you effing retarded? Like, what? Is it conceivable to assume that journalists, with scare quotes as it should be, just happened to appear early in the morning at the border without prior coordination with the terrorists? Or were they part of the plan? Yes, they all just happened to be like in basically in the same place at the same time. I think that's, I mean, if it's like one person, okay, you could probably, I think, reasonably go, yeah, maybe that person just happened to be there. So we're going over one when it's like two, and then it's three, four, five, and now like six. It's like, no, that's coordination at this point. Probably when you get to like at least a third person, it's like, yeah, something's being coordinated. Because even if they didn't know the exact details of what was going to happen, which I obviously have no proof of that, and who knows if they actually did or not. Says once it unfolded, did they not realize they were breaching a border? And if so, did they notify the news agencies? Some sort of communication was undoubtedly necessary before, after, or during the attack in order to get the photos published. It says reactions update. After publication of this article, a spokeswoman for the Associated Press, quoted by the Daily Wire, denied any advanced knowledge of the attack, although honest reporting did not make such an accusation. So, if they're basically trying to say something didn't happen that we never asked them if it happened or not, I'm almost going to say that they may have had advanced knowledge of that. It's like when you're interviewing, or when you see on TV, and not you're interviewing because you're not going to be doing these interviews in all likelihood. It's on TV when it's like a cop is questioning a murder suspect, and the murder suspect is like, "Yeah, I didn't do that," and they're like, "Well, we didn't see that," like So then they're like, "Maybe you did," and so I think that feels to me like this is what it is. So the Associated Press had no knowledge of the October 7th attacks before they happened, said Nicole Meir. The role of the AP is to gather information on breaking news events around the world, wherever they happen, even when those events are horrific and cause mass casualties. AP uses images taken by freelancers around the world, including in Gaza. Okay, seems like a rote sort of statement, but okay. As according to a report on Ynet News on November 9th, AP has decided to cut ties with Islaya. Okay, that's what I mentioned earlier on the video. It says we are no longer working with Hassan Islaya, who had been an occasional freelancer for AP and other international news organizations in Gaza, their statement said. Earlier, Ynet News reported that CNN has decided to suspend ties with Islaya despite not finding any reason to doubt the journalistic accuracy of the work he has done for us. Well, I mean, he's completely, uh, I guess, partisan, if you want to say. Like, he's totally in the bag for Hamas, so I'd say his journalistic accuracy is probably questionable at best. Because the day after the publication, Reuters issued a statement to which Honest Reporting replied as follows. And it says, please read our report. We did not accuse Reuters of collusion. We quite rightly raised some serious ethical issues regarding news outlets' association with these freelancers and asked important and relevant questions that everyone deserves answers to. That's correct. So, and I like how the person down here puts Honest Reporting in scare quotes. Like, and like, yeah, we didn't say that. Okay. Says the New York Times stood by its decision to work with freelancer Youssef Massoud, who on October 7th had worked for AP. In a statement on November 9th, the paper praised his work, claiming that he was doing what photojournalists always do during major news events, even though he was he was already there. So like how was he supposed to know that was going to happen? Maybe he did. The Times denied it had prior knowledge of the Hamas attacks, an accusation honest reporting did not make. Again, we're coming back to the whole, oh, so how did you know about that then, sort of thing. So I think they might very well have. I'd be very interested in seeing if they did or not, and that'll come out one day. I don't doubt. Does Israel's Public Diplomacy Directorate at the Prime Minister's office issued a statement saying it viewed with severity the phenomenon of journalists covering Hamas's atrocities, labeling them as accomplices to crimes against humanity. The statement added that the Israeli government press office has sent an official complaint demanding explanations and immediate action from the relevant media outlets, who are probably not going to do anything because they're just assholes. As the Jerusalem Journalists Association has called on the relevant international media outlets to launch a thorough inquiry into questions arising from this exposure. Yeah, you guys are going to be waiting a long time for that. The way when international news agencies decide to pay for material that has been captured under such problematic circumstances, their standards may be questioned and their audience deserves to know about it. And if their people on the ground actively or passively collaborated with Hamas to get the shots, they should be called out to redefine the border between journalism and barbarism. That is correct. And that is the end of the article. So, but I find that kind of frightening, though, that like these guys were there, like a whole half a dozen of them were already at these places. Like, did they know about this ahead of time? And if they did, like, nobody should be working with them again. I mean, I'm sure news outlets in Gaza, who are all Hamas anyway, because Hamas controls everything. They're an authoritarian ruling government, and everything that is reported from there has to be approved by them. So I'm sure they'll work with them, but besides that, I don't think anything else is going to happen, unfortunately. But I'd say this definitely taints the AP, the New York Times, CNN, if they weren't all already tainted enough. But that's kind of it for this before I just start going into a million other things. But what do you think about this, Will? Especially if you work in like the journalism field and you aren't someone who has been ideologically compromised, if you will. If you want to say like, hey, yeah, this shouldn't be a thing, or what do you think about this? Let me know in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.